Hello, everybody. This is Tawang Manager from Manager Sustainable Solutions. So, for years, people have been asking themselves, how do I become financially free? Because this is really a challenge for everybody. And I'm sure you are sitting there asking yourself, how do I become financially free? So, I will try to break it down. But first, before I break it down, let me just give you some bit of statistics. So, in the world's population, 2% are actually what we call wealthy. What does this mean? This means that they are able to live without physically working and maintain the kind of lifestyle that they want. And they can still pass uh, this wealth to the next generation. And then you have 3% of the world's population that is just in the middle. This means that they can be able to live the kind of lifestyle they want for a certain amount of time, maybe 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years. Okay? But they are not able to pass this wealth to the next generation. But the scary fact is 95% of people are poor, which means that if they lose their job, they cannot survive more than a month or two. This is really a scary fact. So, according to Robert Kiyosaki, the cash flow quadrant, there's four ways of generating income. So I want to break it down to you. He calls these the cash flow quadrant. So the cash flow quadrant is made up of employee. It's made up of self-employed people. It's made up of businesses. It's made up of investors. Okay, so you realize that there's a left side and there's a right side of the quadrant. So I'm gonna call this the left and I'm gonna call this the right side of the quadrant. Okay, so there's a difference in mindset of the people on the left and the people on the right. Okay, so the left side of the quadrant, they possessed more liabilities than anything. And then the people on the right side possess assets more than anything. So what does assets and what does these liabilities mean? It means that these are the things that actually take money away from your pocket. And the opposite is the true for asset, which means that these are the things that put money in your pocket. So if I had to make example of what liabilities is, a house that you pay mortgage every month is a liability. A car that you pay back the bank and interest is a liability. But if you look at on the right side, you can have the same items, but because you use them different, they can be your assets. So your house, if you change it and then you rent it, it becomes an asset. And then your car, if you use it for Uber, it becomes an asset. So this is just a different kind of mindset from the left side and to the right side of the cash flow quadrant. So breaking down the employees in terms of how they actually make their money. So the employees actually exchange time for money. So what this means, it means that they need to go to work an 8-hour job in order to generate their money. So if they're not available to go to work, they do not make money. And this is where most of us are. And then when you talk about a self-employed person, a self-employed, I'm just going to make an example to make it easy. We can talk about a dentist. So normally all of us, when we go for dentist work, we have realized that there's only two people in that practice that are actually working. There's the PA that organizes the schedule of the doctor, and the everything else from start to finish after the PA is done by the dentist. This means that the dentist becomes the system to generate money. So if he is not available, then he is not able to make money, which means that the same thing that happens on the employee, he still exchange time for money. Because on the left side of the quadrant, what is basically the key focus is that they are involved in active income. They have to be physically there to make the money. But when you go to the right side of the quadrant, the mentality changes. So when I talk about business, I'm actually talking about businesses of 500 people plus. So the business owner actually owns a system, which means that the system becomes the mechanism in which he or she makes money. So if you talk about Uber, for example, he has done the most work by generating or developing a system that actually makes money. But after that system is actually in place, he does not have to work. It's up to him to decide, do I work, do I not work? But he continues making money because he uses a principle called OPT, which means you use other people's time to generate your money. And then when you come to investors, investors are the people. The key thing that they do is that money works for them. So money works for them. But if you go there, you'll realize that on the left side of the quadrant, you work for money. What do I mean by money works for them? It means they buy things like stocks, they buy things like real estate, they invest in banks, and then they just put a portion of their money, and then their money generate more money for them. They also do not have to be physically active to actually generate the income. So which means that on the right side of the quadrant, what they basically do is called passive income, which is the opposite of active income. So the rich becomes richer because they develop passive streams of income, while the poor becomes poor and poor because they depend on active income. Another key thing that you must note here is that the investors actually use what we call other people's money, which is called OPM. I know if you're watching this video until now, you want to change your financial situation. So the first thing that you really have to ask yourself is, where do you make 90% of your income? In which quadrant? And I tell you now, you need to be really honest with yourself to change your situation. So if you are making it here as an employer or here as a self-employed, you need to develop ways to move from the left side to the right side of the quadrant. But remember, The left side, they buy liabilities. The right side, they buy assets. And according to Rich Dad, Poor Dad book, I've already explained that the liabilities take money from your pocket while assets put money into your pocket. So on the next videos, I'll be discussing more in terms of how do we actually move from the left side of the quadrant to the right side of the quadrant. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'll see you on the next video.